All right, we're live. Welcome, everyone. I'm Will from the CHRILLCAST.
And I'm Andrew from the CHRILLCAST.
I'm Zenghilios from a separate side faction of the CHRILLCAST.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've been on so many times by this point. You're basically a part of it now. So, well, hopefully we have a lively discussion today. We're going to be talking about Batman's evolution in video games, as well as, maybe our other favorite superheroes in video games and how they've changed over time as the media has changed. But first, how about you go ahead and describe your channel there, Zenghilios?
Yeah, so I basically just do reaction reviews to all sorts of stuff: Star Wars, DC, Marvel, more recently anime, specifically stuff like Demon Slayer. And I'm just trying to get more away from reactions and more into analytical, rhetorical videos and just analyzing, more interesting themes and whatnot. But that's basically what I do, just covering the topics I love, as you can see behind me, all the other various topics. But yeah, that's basically what I do.
Very cool. All right. I guess we can go ahead and jump into this. First, have you all seen the new Batman movie?
I have not
Absolutely.
yet.
Oh, no.
I'd love to see it.
Without spoiling it, Zenghilios, how do you feel about it? I think you have the shirt on, so.
Yeah, this is actually a Red Hood shirt.
Okay.
I cannot English. Red Hood shirt, but I do got a little Batman cup I got from the movie theater. But no, I honestly thought it was not just the greatest Batman movie, but I think it's definitely a top 3 comic book movie of all time for me. It was just the whole time in the theater, I was just sitting there going, oh my God, this is bad. Like, it was just so comic accurate. It was so good. All the actors were great. The cinematography was great. The direction was great. And it was a 3-hour movie. It did not feel 3 hours. After that 3-hour point, I was like, come on, I could do another 3 hours. Give me more. But I don't want to say any spoilers, but it was honestly, if you like Batman, you are going to absolutely love this movie.
Yeah, so I watched it last night in anticipation for this podcast, so just to make sure I could talk about it a little bit. And yeah, I really, really liked it. I don't know if I'd say it was my favorite. I'd have to see it again. To make that determination. But the feel is unique. Robert Pattinson actually did a really good job as the Batman. Good. When he was first announced, I was like, man, I don't know how I feel about that. But I felt the same way about Heath Ledger, and he ended up being an amazing Joker. So I was like, all right, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And he's brutal, he's brooding, he says very few words, which I liked because it's early Batman, so he hasn't really figured out what to do yet. He's just scary.
So do you guys think the trailer does it justice?
The trailer, I don't know,
because the trailers right now for it, that's the reason I've been a little slow to go see it. It's just I don't know what to think of it. It looks good, but I don't know.
Did you like the Joker?
Yes and no. I mean, it's one of those things where the newest Joker movie, it's kind of, it depends what you're in the mood for, right? It's a little bit more ambiguous with the Joker as well, because he's such a dynamic and interesting character. Whereas Batman, you kind of have an idea what you want, right? So, I guess for me, it's the reason I've been slow in going to see it is because I wasn't 100% convinced by Robert Pattinson as Batman in it. I wasn't sure what direction he was going to take it. It leaves a lot up for interpretation. So that's why I'm wondering if it does justice when you compare him to Christian Bale, for example, who I think everyone thinks.
I will say, so don't go and think it's going to be a Christopher Nolan film, because it's just completely
right.
I will say it's closer in the vein of how the Joker diverged from the previous version. So it's a bit more of a character piece. There's a lot more going on. There's much more atmosphere to every single shot. They take the time to have Batman walk out of the shadows. So it'll be 15-second buildup, and you just hear his footsteps. So if you're not into that kind of filming, then you're not going to really enjoy this film.
It's more artistic.
Yes,
the way to describe this one.
Yes. Well, you can feel the trepidation of the bad guys. There's in the very beginning, it's not really, you've seen in the trailers where there's some thugs and they turn around and all you hear is his footsteps. And honestly, you kind of feel that how scared they are, because oh my gosh, this is a literal monster, because
this might be a weird comparison to make. Did either of you see Dunkirk?
I didn't.
haven't seen it.
So would you compare it to as the Dunkirk of Batman films in relation, like difference. Like every World War II movie is a certain way, action wise, and then you have Dunkirk, which is very much like atmosphere and experience. Is it in like how you feel during the events? Is it more like that?
I would say yes, because there was times in the movie, and I went with a group of 7 people, and we're all
Okay.
huge Batman fans, and there were times where we'd lean over to each other and be like, God dang, I'm terrified of Batman right now, and I love
Okay.
that character. And there are a lot of times where, obviously no spoilers, that the atmosphere that Matt Reeves sets up in this movie is it feels like you're a villain in Gotham. I think
Okay.
if you were to pick an audience perspective, you are the villain, you're a crook, and you're supposed to be terrified of the Batman. You're supposed to feel the fear, because very early on in the movie, and they talk about in the trailer, Batman's vengeance. He's fear. Batman uses fear as a tool, and you really get that here. It's not just Batman beating up criminals in this movie. It's much more than that. Just like you said,
it's psychological terror. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Okay.
World War II movies. It wasn't just a World War II movie, Allies versus Nazis versus Japan, stuff like that. It was very much so kind of like a character study, but more so a Gotham study, if that makes sense. That's the best way I can phrase it without spoiling it.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Also, don't go into it expecting Bruce Wayne, because he doesn't exist. But I don't think that ruins it at all. It's very much, again, like, I think it's a good way of putting it. You are a villain, and as a villain, you would not know who Bruce Wayne was, and you wouldn't care. You'd be focused on Batman, and that's very much the film. So, like, I think if there's another one, they'll bring that in, because that's sort of how they want to go with it. But I don't want to spoil it. It's good. It's worth a watch. Yeah, I haven't seen the trailers, so I mean, I'm trying to avoid spoilers, which is why I haven't seen it. So I don't know how they're setting it up.
Oh, that reminds me back to your original question, Andrew, about if the trailers do the movie justice.
Yeah.
I would say yes. And at first, I hated the trailers because have you seen the trailers before I say anything?
I have. I've seen multiple trailers for it. I've seen the one where they've been advertising it in movie theaters. So that's where it's like, well, it looks interesting. It made me like rethink every perception I had prior to, because with Robert Pattinson, I was like,
Yeah, because there's in the opening shot of the first trailer, you see a person have a question mark in their coffee mug, and he gets arrested. And when I first saw that trailer, I'm like, why would you show that? Why would you show the main villain supposedly getting arrested? Like that you would think that's a build up to the movie. And then you watch the movie and you're like, oh,
it's just a small element.
That's just that's not a spoiler at all. That's like, that's it. The way I think it does it justice, because it presents the concepts, but then you watch the movie and you see what all of this is playing out, how all of this plays out, I should say.
Do you like the movie
and it
The
was
Zodiac
just so beautifully
Killer,
done.
or just the Zodiac?
Yeah, the Riddler. Yep, there you go.
I mean, it's essentially that movie with Batman.
I haven't seen that movie, but I know of the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
So you guys would both say it's a good pivot from Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I'm in the minority that I didn't like the Dark Knight trilogy. I thought they were great movies, but I thought they weren't good Batman movies at all. It wasn't comic accurate at all. I mean, yeah, they got his origin story right, but to me, they just didn't feel like Batman movies. It just felt like a guy dressed as a bat in Chicago. There was no atmosphere to that movie. It didn't feel like Gotham. It didn't feel like a GCPD. And so I didn't really enjoy those movies as much as I would have hoped to. But this movie definitely feels like a comic book Batman movie.
Are you a fan of the Gotham TV series at all?
I did. I was a big fan of that show, and it was very fun to watch that whole stuff play out, especially in those last 2 seasons.
Right. I definitely think that that's a pretty solid TV series.
It definitely is. And that's funny you brought that up. After the movie, during the credits, we were talking about if any of us had seen Gotham, and 2 of us had. And there was a lot of elements from Gotham, the TV show, that I'm like, man, that translates really well over here, because although that is not canon to the Batman movie, there's a lot of elements in Bruce Wayne's origin story in that show that can translate really well here, and be like, oh, I can see how something from Gotham would set something up here in a different version of Batman. So I thought that was really cool. And if you've seen Gotham, you might appreciate a few things about Bruce Wayne's past that most audience members might not.
So does it kind of take so it's in that similar vein of dark tones?
Absolutely.
Basically, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't say anything beyond that, but yes, it's a very dark movie.
The TV series is pretty dark for Gotham. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, let's just appreciate Colin Farrell though as a Penguin. Like, I do not see him in there. I think that's a lie. I don't think that's him.
Yeah, I just see Oswald Cobblepot. That is all I see, and I love that.
Yeah, no, I really like the makeup that they have, but man, that voice, it just isn't Colin Farrell. I don't know how they made that voice come out of that man.
That was such an incredible performance, and good job from the makeup artists and whatnot. That was great.
Yeah. All right, so I guess let's go ahead and transition to Batman and video games. I'm actually currently playing through Arkham Knight right now. So I would say the Arkham series is my favorite. I know there's some okay ones in the past, and there's obviously like arcade games are pretty good. But there's a lot of missteps. As far as Batman games, which one would be your favorite, and is it the Arkham series, and why? Either one can jump in first.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for Andrew.
I would have to say Arkham. I didn't play it personally, but it was pretty solid to watch when one of my roommates in college was playing.
Okay.
For me, I'd have to say the Arkham series. From a gameplay perspective, it's definitely Arkham Knight. From a story perspective, I really enjoyed Arkham Origins. I thought that was such a really cool game that ties in not just the narrative aspect of Batman, but also the villains and how Batman's relationship with the villains changes between the games and how that affects, how it has consequences to the characters around him. And so from a gameplay perspective, it's Arkham Knight. And from a story or narrative perspective, I'd have to say Arkham Origins. Those are definitely my favorite of not just the Arkham series, but Batman games in, total.
Yeah.
There's my boy, Mark Hamill.
Yeah, Mark Hamill is so good. So there's probably gonna be some spoilers. Obviously, we have to talk about the games, but like that series and obviously the main trilogy, I really, really enjoy those games. I felt like I was Batman. I like just beating people to a pulp and realizing I'm probably killing them, but like somehow they're still alive. And it's like, I don't know. I think it's Batman like at his peak. And to contrast that with the movie that we just saw, like that's, early Batman. So he's nowhere near what you see in the game. But like, Batman's at his peak. He's a little bit older. He's more grizzled. He has all the gadgets at his disposal. He's faced all of these villains many times before. And I don't know, it's just so cool. I just love just beating the crap out of people. And the thing is, it also like it made it was just like the narrative was well structured. The gameplay was very repetitive, but it was also like a really enjoyable combat loop. So like, swooping in and attacking people, you go from one room to the next room where like, you're in the shadows, you have to take some out, and then you're able to like fight the rest of them. And it is very repetitive, but it's also very fun because you feel like you're playing through a comic book story.
Exactly.
When you think about it though, when the games came out, it's like, how many of those games aren't repetitive in combat?
It's true.
Just compare it to most of those story type games. It's like Assassin's Creed. That's what game is more repetitive than that, but everyone loves it. So
yeah, I always find it funny when I read a review on a game. It's like it's very repetitive. It's like every game. Like what game isn't? You can't like build a different combat loop for every single scenario. It's just that would be so time intensive and basically impossible. So I guess the reason why you don't think like a good game is repetitive is just because it is so enjoyable that it's fine. It's fine that you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And that's how I feel about these games.
Look at Minecraft.
Yeah,
Minecraft. And for story though, that's when story is supposed to carry it. Like
true.
Combat loop. I mean, a good game, you will find yourself doing a repetitive methodology because you're going to find what works for you in a solid combat system, right? You're going to find that preference of, I guess, technically button mashing that you kind of like. That combo of moves. So it's always you're going to inherently find a repetitive combat situation, and then but you're not playing it for the combat. You're playing it for the story. I think that gets lost a lot of the time.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Because I mean, look at any first-person shooter. All you're doing is walking around shooting targets, or look at games like Mortal Kombat. All you're doing is fighting, but what makes those games so fun, even though the combat loop is exactly the same in those games, in those genres of games, I mean, what makes it fun is that you find your own style, you find your own approach. That's why so many people are so much better at Sub-Zero than me, or I'm better at Scorpion than other people, because you find what works for you. And you take the Batman games, and yes, it's very much so in some ways button mashing. You're trying to find the best way to beat up these characters, but what's fun is that you want to be strategic about it. You want to be stealthy about it. You just want to go in there, bat gadgets blazing. Like, how do you want to defeat these goons and these crooks and these villains? And I think that's what makes it so works so well, I guess, is the best way.
And it's important to remember too that it's repetitive because you're making Batman you. Like you're making that character you in the game. So it's like, how are you going to do it? It's like, no, I'm going to change it up every time. Like, I'm going to be stealthy this one, then I'm going to be just guns a-blazing in this one. No, you're going to have a specific preference. Yep. So it's because you're making that Batman your Batman.
And which is really cool because, you're given a lot of different avenues to every encounter. So you can use different tools. You can go through the ventilation systems. You can jump from the gargoyles that are, for whatever reason, inside of a room. But yeah, so you really can make it your own Batman, which is definitely really cool.
I think it translates to comics really well. I mean, look how many, not just in a movie perspective, but on a comic book perspective, look how many different iterations there are of Batman. I don't mean suits, and I don't mean looks. I mean like combat styles and stuff, because you have so many different Elseworld comics of Batman and Bruce Wayne, and the way he fights, the way he approaches villains and whatnot is very, very interesting. Look at the way Bruce Wayne approaches his villains in the Dark Knight comic. He's so much darker and grisly, and doesn't give any shits, I guess. I don't know the appropriate term for that, but and then you have his year one Batman or year two Batman, like you have here in the Batman movie, where he's he's on the edge. He doesn't know. He has his, I'm not going to kill anyone, but how far am I willing to go to get my goal accomplished? And I think that's what's beautiful about these Batman Arkham games, because in some way it lets you take that approach. I mean, no, you don't have a choice for how badly you beat up someone in that game to the point of death.
I do like how in Arkham Knight I can just run people over, and like they have like a little animation, like I'm shocking them. It's like I just killed that guy. So I guess, have you guys played any other Batman games other than this, like the newest iterations, or no?
I don't believe so.
Well, all right. Well, I guess that's a short conversation. I guess so. Do you think it's better to base Batman off of like an original story? So that's essentially what Arkham City is. It's the Arkham series is an original story. Should be more like comic book accurate, where it actually follows and actually established canon story, or should be based off of a game property? And like I realize there are shortfalls and good things about each one, but which one do you think actually translates better, or would have translated better if given the proper time or whatever? And what would you like to see?
Well, my opinion is that you're never going to make the fans completely happy, so you should recognize that by not trying to recreate something from the comic books completely. So you should try an original story that takes elements from the comic books inspiration, so that you're not like, oh, but they didn't do this exactly the same way because of whatever game reason, if the mechanics don't work or something. So it's like you can create your own story, and I think people can appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You have all these comics that are based on, or all these movies based on comics. Sorry, like Captain America: Civil War, Avengers: Infinity War, and although they are nothing like their comic book counterpart, somehow they are also like their comic book counterpart. They get the general story across, and I think that doing an original story based off of stuff, like Andrew was saying, is so much better, because if you've already seen the original comics, such as like Death in the Family or Killing Joke, specifically for Batman, you know what's going to happen. So it kind of takes the element of surprise out of that for people who want to see something new and fresh. And I mean, look at Batman games where you're taking all these Batman rogues, and maybe you're taking the concept of No Man's Land in a Batman game, which Arkham Knight kind of did with the whole Scarecrow situation. Or you may take a Long Halloween concept and apply that to a Batman story or something like that, but make it somewhat original. That way it makes the comic book fans happy. You get to appreciate the Easter eggs and everything that's already there. You have the foundation. It's still Batman, but you make it worth playing because it brings something new and fresh to the table. And I think that would be the best approach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think? What medium, or I guess not medium, but like, should Batman be more of like an action adventure game? Should it be more like an RPG game? Do you think they should make another 2D game like the NES version? What do you guys think?
2D NES, easy.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly really like this style games. Like, I wouldn't mind them making one, like a one-off like this, but obviously, I'm always going to be up for more of the adventure game.
I think it could go multiple ways. It depends on what they really want to go for, story-wise, right? The Spider-Man games that have come out have been pretty solid, so an open world like that would probably go quite a long ways in a Batman game.
Yeah, for sure. I think what the Arkham series did was probably the best approach to a Batman story because the whole, one of the main aspects of Batman's character is Gotham and how Gotham shapes Batman as a character, not just Batman, but Bruce Wayne as a character. And if you give the player the ability to roam Gotham and, decide how you want to roam the streets of Gotham, or even the sewers if you want to go meet Killer Croc or something, I think that's the most beautiful aspect of a Batman game, just because it gives you that freedom. It gives you the feeling and the atmosphere. And if you were to be restricted to like a 2D platform, you don't really have that. You take away that aspect of Gotham and of Batman's character and the intrigue, the mystery, the detective work. And I think that maybe a mystery game for Batman would work. So if you didn't want to do an open world aspect, I'm open-minded. Do a detective game that's very linear and where you're supposed to go. But, there you go. Yeah, something like that. Cool. But Batman, like,
it'd be Gotham like a Batman by Gaslight or whatever that series is. That'd be kind of a cool one. But have you played the Batman Telltale series game and games? Actually?
Yeah, I forgot about that. So I guess I technically have played another Batman Telltale or Batman game.
Yeah, so those are more of a detective. So like, the action is, quick time events, but you actually have to scan all the areas and like locate things. That's actually pretty well done. That translates really well, actually. Even with liking the Arkham games so much, that one's still pretty good. For sure.
Yeah, you kind of just summed up everything I was going to say. So I'll leave that there.
All right, so here's the burning question. If you could be one of the Batman, who would you be? As far as like the movie Batman.
Like if I could choose what Batman movie I would, or like what version?
Yeah, if you're going to be like Michael Keaton, George Clooney, Val Kilmer, Christian Bale, or Robert Pattinson. I guess, or
Robert
Ben
Pattinson.
Affleck.
Robert Pattinson, easy.
All right.
I like him that much.
What about you, Andrew? I know you haven't seen Robert Pattinson, but
yeah, I would have to go with Christian Bale just because that one is. I mean, they're just enjoyable movies. I know, not everyone agrees, but definitely not Ben Affleck.
Definitely not Ben Affleck. All right, yeah, I would probably say Christian Bale. Yeah, I'd have to go with that because Alfred is Michael Caine. That's his name, right? Like, I love that guy. He's a great Alfred. I think you also have Lucius Fox as your right-hand man, making all your cool gear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go with him too. And also, this, like, to Zenghilios' point, or no, I guess it was Andrew's point about. No, I guess it wasn't Zenghilios' point, but how it's basically just Chicago. It's very real life.
Chicago mixed with New York.
Yeah, it is very realistic, and I can see that actually existing in the real world. So yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, so going from Batman into just like other superheroes, you already mentioned Spider-Man. Have you guys played any other Spider-Man besides the new ones?
I might have. I don't remember at the moment. That's how not meaningful those ones were to me. I was gonna say the Infamous. Does that count as a superhero game? Are we gonna count Infamous?
I'll count Infamous because Chris will hurt me if I don't.
Is Infamous that the game with the guy with that controls all the technology and stuff? He's like super OP and whatnot. Or am I thinking of something else?
Electricity. He's the electricity. Well, it depends on which one you're playing, but the very first Infamous was the PS3 game that was you get like some weapon goes off in was it New York or I forget. I forget which city, but some weapon goes off, you get turned into like a superhero with lightning powers. You can drain electricity and stuff.
Okay, then yeah, I think I am thinking of the right thing.
And then it had like a huge karma thing. You could either be like a hero or a villain. That's why it was called Infamous. So
Okay.
and I think that was actually the best part about those series is like the karma points where you could be the villain if you really wanted to. And up until that point, there wasn't really a good game that did it as well as that, in my opinion. Unless you wanted
That's
to go off
interesting.
of Fable, but I know
Yeah.
I never really played Fable too much, so.
Oh, that's your loss. Fable's amazing.
Well, that's because I was always a PlayStation person, and Fable's not PlayStation.
Yeah. Well, it's on PC, man. You play on PC. It's on your phone technically now.
I wasn't a PC gamer at
Yeah.
that point, so.
Yeah. All right, but as far as let's go ahead and go with Spider-Man, and we talk about like maybe the future of video games, superheroes and video games in general. There's always been like a focus on certain characters, like it's always the biggest ones. Well, I guess in the 90s they explored a little bit more because there's more arcade games, and you actually like brought in some more of the B-list characters from Marvel and DC. But it really narrowed into like Batman and Spider-Man. And for me, like definitely the one was like, man, superhero games really can be good, and they can just like blow my mind with Spider-Man 2. I know that's everyone's answer, who was actually like alive and playing video games at that point. But have you guys played Spider-Man 2 for like the Xbox, GameCube, PlayStation 2?
Are you referring to the Spider-Man 2 like movie game?
Yes.
Then yeah, I used to love that game.
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
Oh no, my balloon!
Oh no. Oh, the nostalgia.
Like literally the hardest freaking mission, and it's just ridiculous. You're retrieving a balloon, but it's impossible.
Yeah. God dang.
I'm gonna go ahead and put that up in the background.
Oh, please do. I gotta see this. It's been so long. I remember I could always never get past the rhino fight when I was a kid.
Okay, yeah. The rhino was tough because you always got hooked to his horn and he'd spin you around. Oh man, I love this game
My
so
balloon.
much. Yeah, so Andrew, do you ever play this game?
No, not this one.
I would not say go back to play it. It is unbelievably frustrating nowadays, but go on.
But I was going to say, it makes perfect sense that all the video games kind of come back to Batman and Spider-Man because of basically the world they are in, right? They both are heavily focused on a city. It's what most video game developers are comfortable with, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be much harder to do a quality Thor game or like name other character. I don't even Iron Man is kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I
don't
think
know
Batman
why.
is.
But I feel like Iron Man's a little OP. You know, that's just.
It's tough because a lot of other characters, one, like you're saying, they're not just focused on a city, so they would have to be able to move around to different locations to feel like the actual character. Also, a lot of other characters fly. Whereas, you know, Batman glides, but he's always falling, so it's a much different mechanic versus like Iron Man. You'd have to like basically make a jet game, as well as if you want to have him walk around, you have to make a completely different game for that.
Kind of like Anthem, how Anthem handled that, but better than Anthem.
Yeah, better than that. Yeah.
See, also, like, I think, if I gotta be honest, I think the Infamous games kind of give the best clues to what would probably make the other, like, what other superheroes would, or comic characters would make a good video game. And I bet you could do something pretty good with X-Men. I feel like X-Men is what they could do best.
Well, have you guys ever played X-Men Legends?
No.
Okay, let me look at this
But
up.
I play Ultimate Alliance.
I feel like you could make a solid open world game based off of X-Men, and it would be.
Well, that sort of gets into what I was going to say is like what's coming up. They're actually making a Wolverine game, and I'm pretty excited about what they're going to do with that. It's not the X-Men in general. They're just focused on one.
Right. I guess it depends on how story driven it is, with regards to like, are other mutants going to be in it? You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential good stories that could go down. Dark Phoenix would be a really good one for
I want them to actually make a good story on that, like a good movie or a good video game on that storyline. It's so good.
I don't know why they always rush Dark Phoenix stuff. That's like a Thanos level buildup. You can't just have 2 movies and then boom, Dark Phoenix. That was such a shame what they did with that.
Yeah, well, the newest one, what is it called? Is it just called Dark Phoenix? I think
it's called Dark Phoenix.
That movie, first of all, the movie just plain sucked the entire time. But when she becomes like the Dark Phoenix, she doesn't do anything cool. Like that, she is a world-ending threat at that point. So just having her like, what does she even do? I don't even remember what she does. Like, what is the threat?
She lifts up a train.
Yeah, she lifts up a train. She glares really hard.
Speaking, the X-Men movies have always kind of, I don't know, they seem like they're going in a good direction, and then they kind of just divert instead of tying it all together nicely. Definitely.
I kind of
should have done better.
Yeah, I know I mentioned Ultimate Alliance earlier, but going back to like a Batman aspect game, I wonder if they could do like a Batman-esque Ultimate Alliance game, because I know they're coming out with Gotham Knights, and Gotham Knights it's not a sequel to the Arkham games. It's Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a sequel to that. But I think if they Batman to me is such an interesting character, not just because he's Batman, but because of the Bat family and everyone around him. I think that doing like an Ultimate Alliance-esque game of like Bat family characters would be really cool, because there's so many interesting characters. You got Red Hood, who's one of my personal favorites. You have Nightwing, Batgirl, Batwoman. You have 15 different Robins to choose from. So I think if they did something like that, but maybe focusing on Batman's characters rather than like a whole cinematic universe or whatever, or comic book universe, I should say. There's a lot of potential to be had there. That's why I'm super hyped for Gotham Knights, because it seems to be more of a free roam Ultimate Alliance in some aspects, and I just hope that they do Batman's characters justice.
Yeah. See, I think I agree with that, because every time they've tried to do other superheroes in the DC world, they're just, except for Wonder Woman, they've been very lackluster in my opinion. But that's, I know some people really like Superman over there, but
I've seen a lot of cries for like a Superman or Flash game, but how do you do that? Superman's OP. Like, how do you make a fun game? You just
I already figured this out.
I'm even saying movies just right now. It's like anytime they've tried movies, they can't even execute movies really well.
With Superman, it's so super easy. The very beginning of the game, you just get shot with a kryptonite bullet or dust or something, and throughout the entire game, you're leveling up as you're removing bits of the kryptonite. So you like regain powers as you're through it. So like at the very end, you're overpowered, not in the beginning. There you go.
Oh, it kind of reminds me of the game Prototype.
Yep.
There you go. Okay, I can see what you're saying now.
Yep. Warner Brothers, pay me some money.
It's a question of how enjoyable that game would be, though, as Superman.
And what the story would be.
Well, that's the thing. That's the problem with his character in general, because they've made him so powerful in the comics. So like, really, he's unrelatable. Other than him trying to do the right thing, but he can literally fly into the sun and then punch through planets. Like, come on. It's like, how do I relate to that character? It's like, yeah, it's cool, but he would be cooler as a villain, which is why they always want to make him one. Yeah.
Laughs in Injustice.
Yeah, exactly.
They could always do Green Arrow.
See, that would be a good one. I love my boy Oliver.
Yeah, so I guess what other characters, let's focus on DC first. Would you actually like, so Green Arrow would be one. I think that would actually be a relatively straightforward one to do, because again, he's not overpowered, so it would be fun to build him up. What are some other ones?
Nightwing.
Oh yeah.
So I can't. There's a lot of characters I want, like the Flash, but the Flash would be just like Superman. You have a power problem there. Yeah, you have a power.
Even problem. Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Well, they're making a Wonder Woman game, so I'm very curious on that one.
Well, it'll be interesting.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Aquaman would be weird.
It would be
I don't know how you do Aquaman.
It's just like that Feeding Frenzy game. You just have him in the corner talking to the fish as they're going around. That's the game.
It's actually fish farmer simulator game.
Oh god.
Maybe like a Red Hood game would be cool, because Red Hood he's not OP, and he has a really cool story, and a lot of cool characters are spawned from Red Hood. So I think Red Hood would be a really interesting character to
especially
focus on.
if Batman is a villain at least in the beginning. That would be cool.
Or maybe like, because we all these Batman games, Batman's the main character, he's the hero. But if you did like a Red Hood story, and Red Hood's not a bad guy, he's an anti-hero. So, part of the game, you're trying to hunt down Batman and get revenge for what he did, but not really did to Jason. And I think that'd be a really cool thing. Make Batman the villain, even though he's not the villain. And you're trying to figure out who's on the right side here. It'd give the player a really good moral dilemma. You can make choices throughout the game that have consequences. It doesn't have to be an open world thing, but I still think it'd be an interesting concept.
Well, you could really go like heavy into the psychological trauma that he went through, and how like you're seeing the story from his perspective, and then like as you're unpeeling the layers, you realize like, oh, his mind is super warped. So like what he's seeing in that moment is not what's really happening. I think that'd be kind of cool.
That would be great. And you have to like discover like what's reality and what's not reality. That would be a really cool gameplay loop.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, Will, you should just design games now. Come on, game concepts.
Exactly. This is what I'm meant to do. Come on, Warner Bros. What character would I want?
Jobs apply now.
I mean, obviously, I want a Justice League game, but again, it's like, how do you do that?
Just go to Apocalypse. Just throw them all
Honestly, there. I think their easiest one to jump into would probably be the Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Also, with the TV series, it was pretty successful, so they would.
Yeah, they already have that audience.
They already have an audience.
And he's already relatable enough to Hawkeye, and a lot of people know Hawkeye from the MCU, so that already gives here's the DC version.
Hawkeye.
Oh, he's way cooler.
Hawkeye's kind of lame compared to us. So.
Hawkeye is totally lame. Yes. So Chris asked, "What is your favorite Batman villain?"
Ooh, I'll go last on this one. I want to hear what you guys have to say first.
I'm always conflicted. I'm always conflicted on these. I'm trying to think of which ones I actually like. I weirdly liked Poison Ivy. What?
Man-Bat. He's the best one, for sure.
I weirdly like Poison Ivy.
Okay.
That's a good one. I don't know why. I just do. It's always interesting.
She has the power of controlling plants and growing them all over the place. She's not really human, which is also cool. She's super sexy. And she has like a killer kiss, which honestly is honestly like an unspoken, like how cool that power actually is. Or she can like allure you to get close and then she can kill you. It's very cool.
Like a siren.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, the plant powers are cool and they're super creepy.
And I feel like you could make a really interesting movie based purely around her.
Yeah, good.
Depending on what you were trying to do, because just think of how many like you got conservatories and stuff where people like all those different like botanical gardens everywhere, and people like to have conventions around it. You could make her almost serial killer-esque. You
can make her scary.
You could make her very scary, and yeah.
This is the best Batman movie.
Oh no!
With the Batman.
Oh no! That's my favorite Batman villain, the Batman and Robin movie. Oh god, the movie itself.
Oh, it's so bad.
What year did that come out?
It's like 80s or 90s, right? Or 97.
97. Man, this is what I thought Batman was for a long time too.
God.
Yeah. Anyway, so my favorite villain. It's tough because there's so many iterations of every villain that I like certain iterations. You like
best.
Yeah, it's tough. Like the Joker will always be one of the greats because the Joker's is awesome no matter what.
It's the reason I didn't pick him.
Yeah.
You just can't pick him.
Too cliche.
Right.
I mean, Bane is cool. I like it when they do the more like intelligent Bane, just because it seems weird that you have this big hulking guy and he's actually really smart. The Riddler is good. I like him when it's Hush, right? When he is like, you don't know it's the Riddler throughout the entire story, and then the very end it's like a resurrected Riddler. That's Hush, right?
No, Hush is Tommy Elliott. He's the one who makes himself look like Bruce Wayne.
Oh, what the heck am I? What's the name of it? Is it the Long Halloween then? What line am I thinking of?
Long Halloween is all the Batman rogues, but
he like wraps his face up in bandages.
That's Hush.
That's not the Riddler?
No, the Hush is his own thing. There might be another story involving Hush and the Riddler, but the only Hush stories I know of is just Thomas Elliot and
Maybe I'm just mixing the two up. There is a story where the Riddler does have stuff on his face, but maybe I'm just mixing those two up. Anyway, that's a good story, and you don't know it's the Riddler. Ooh, but my favorite for it's the Court of Owls. I don't even know why I took so long to get to this. Definitely, Court of Owls is the favorite Batman. I know it's a group of villains, but that's the best, hands down.
I'm blanking. Who's the guy who has the freezing gun?
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze, yeah.
He's good.
Wasn't he in this movie? Also, with
I
Poison
can
Ivy?
meet you.
Yes, I can look him up for you. All right.
Oh God.
Mr. Freeze.
I think it's the same movie. Yeah.
It totally is.
God dang.
To be fair, he looked cool.
He did look cool.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to make Mr. Freeze look cool, so.
Yes. Oh man, you're gonna see the suit up. What is this? You're gonna see the butts too. Like, what is this?
Put nipples on it.
Crotch, butt.
This is what makes
but
Batman Batman.
You missed the most important part. Their suits, their chest pieces had nipples on it.
I'm so dumb.
For whatever reason.
Oh, man.
Bat nips.
Chris also said, "What's the dumbest villain?" They're all the dumbest villain too. It just depends on the storyline.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, at one point, the Joker was actually a terrible villain.
Yeah, they did the whole 3 Joker storyline thing. That thing was weird.
Oh, there he is. Look at how ridiculous he is. That's so great. Oh man, why did they have Arnold Schwarzenegger be this person? He's supposed to be a brilliant scientist. It doesn't even make sense. He sounds so ridiculous.
Yeah, because his story is really sad too if they do him right. So there's a lot of potential to. I think that if the Batman 2 focuses on a Mr. Freeze villain, I think based on what the first movie, the theme and the atmosphere of that movie, I think they could do something really cool with Mr. Freeze if they choose to make him the villain of the second movie. But we'll see.
I mean, let's be honest, they only picked Schwarzenegger for this one because they wanted the big name.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
Nice to meet you. Oh, no.
And he had a big gun. Like, come on. They picked him just because that's what Schwarzenegger was typecasted as.
Yes. Also, they have like bat skates in this. You'll see it in this fight scene. It's just the dumbest thing ever. Like, when would Batman ever need ice skates? Why would he already have this built into his suit? It's just
like, that's a very odd, specific gadget to have. Like,
who's the actor for Robin in this? Like, I forget. He looks familiar, but I can't tell.
He's like on NCIS now or something, isn't he? He's on one of those crime shows.
I recognize him too, and now I'm blanking on his name.
Right, he's very familiar looking, and I can't place it.
But I guess going back to the original thing, I think my favorite villain is easily Court of Owls, and funnily enough, the Riddler. I think the Riddler is a very underrated character because he's very goofy in the comics, and he's very goofy in Arkham Knight because it's very, why is he giving away all the answers to his crimes? That's literally the most pointless thing to do. But I think why I was so hyped for the Batman as a movie because they're finally giving Riddler a chance to shine, and with what they did here, it was just the perfect version of Riddler I could think of, and they really made his character make sense. They made him, the plot holes of why would he just give away all his answers through riddles, and Batman could easily figure them out, and then you're like, oh,
it makes total sense.
Why it makes sense now. Or why would he let himself do this? Or why would he set someone else to do that? And it's like, oh, that makes sense. You're figuring it out, and I love that aspect of you're throughout the movie. You're like, this is so dumb. Why is this happening? And then the movie explains it to you. It treats the audience like they're not dumb, and you're trying to figure stuff out with Batman. And I think that's my favorite aspect of Riddler as a character because I love Joker, but to me, Joker is one of the weaker villains because he just laughs and kills people. There's no motivation behind his character. He has no emotional backstory. He fell into some acid and bada bing, bada boom. And I just think
he's not relatable except for anyone who wants to be an anarchist out there these days.
Oh, Anarchy is a good villain too. So
yeah, I think the Joker movie did really flesh out his character well and made him not necessarily relatable, but sympathetic. Like you felt really bad for him up until the end.
Nothing was creepier though when people laughed in the movie when he did some crazy shit. That's all
I didn't laugh. I just like, oh no.
When I went, people laughed at moments that were just like, I don't know if you should be laughing at that, but
Oh, your mic's off again. Uh-oh.
oh,
Might be down for the count.
nope, still.
Yep. There you go. Oh, maybe. It doesn't say it's muted, but I can't hear you still.
Back
There
now?
you go. Now we're good.
Yep,
Now we're good.
now you're back. Now you're back.
Shoot, I forgot what I was saying. I forgot what I was saying. Oh
Yep,
well.
I also lost that train of thought. But to Chris's comment here that he wouldn't mind a Gotham game where Batman is dead and you play as one of the villains, that would be really cool. Even if Batman was still alive, it'd be cool to play as one of the villains. But the Gotham Knights game, Batman is technically dead, so you get to play at least as the Bat family. So it'll change it up a little bit.
I think it would be really cool to do I think Killing Joke almost got to the end where Batman is laughing with Joker at the very, very last few pages of the manga, I almost said manga, the comic, and you just like hope that maybe Joker does want to redeem himself. And I think that if Batman had a moment like that with a villain and he actually did redeem a character, that maybe that's Mr. Freeze, because I think Mr. Freeze is the more likely to be redeemed if he helped his wife. But and then Batman gets taken away and then they feel responsible for his death. And that would be a really good redemption arc for that villain and trying to make
cool.
right what they made wrong. So I think that'd be a really cool concept.
See, now you should work for Warner Brothers.
I had some cool concepts thrown around in my brain. So
yeah. So you're saying that you like is it Paul Dano is the guy's name?
Paul Dano, I think is how you say it. I could be wrong though.
Or Jim Carrey. Obviously, it's Jim Carrey, right? He's the better Riddler.
Oh, easy. What kind of question is that? It's obviously Jim Carrey as Riddler.
I think I would like like the Riddler better if his hair wasn't pink, and also he didn't wear like a leotard the entire time. Like right now, he actually has like a normal-ish suit on, but half the movie he's in a leotard. It's like I don't understand this. Why would?
Well, that's the riddle, isn't it?
That's the riddle. Nice. Okay. Yeah. So I guess branching out again, I'm trying to swing it back to that's a pun, to Spider-Man. Do you guys think that Spider-Man would have evolved in a way that it did throughout like the video game medium if it wasn't for the Arkham series? Or do you think the Arkham series had to happen first?
Let's see. Oh, we lost his.
No, can't hear you, Zenghilios. I don't know if you're talking.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's broken. It's okay. You weren't adding anything to this conversation anyway.
It is tough though, right? I think I don't know, the world has moved towards those open world games naturally, right? I don't think that Arkham is the reason per se that Spider-Man moved that way. Maybe it made Spider-Man realize that they could do that for a superhero, right? I think if you have to place it on any game, right, it would be like Assassin's Creed and Infamous are the ones that showed that open world games, even within like a city, are what a lot of people would want. Because those are two of the earliest games I can think of that had very convincing open worlds that were like within a city and you were doing these missions around the city.
I think it adds a lot of replayability too, but I don't know if you can hear me saying that.
We heard it now. We heard
Let's
it.
go.
Okay. What were you originally going to say?
I think that Spider-Man could have come first just because he's a more popular character, and he will sell money. But Batman kind of paved the way for many game developers to greenlight some of these projects. Like, wow, comic books are more than just for kids. Adults can play these games and have fun playing these games. We can present darker tones and, you know, present different kinds of stories and make a series and make a lot of money off of this. I think either way, Spider-Man can be a dark character as well. I mean, look at the Ultimate Spider-Man universe. He gets straight up bodied by the six. The Spider-Man can be dark, and I think Batman can be lighthearted as well with his Bat family at the moment with his sons. And so I think either or could have come first, but I don't think any other villain or comic book character could have come first, if that makes sense. It had to be either Batman or Spider-Man, in my opinion.
Yeah, for the same reasons we talked about earlier. They're the two with their city. Like, it's the most conducive to that style of the game.
So now that, you know, obviously Spider-Man and Batman have really established themselves in video games, we expect great things from the newest iteration. Like, I'm already planning on buying the new Spider-Man. I'm already planning on buying Gotham Knights. However, now that they're starting to branch out into like other properties, so you have the Suicide Squad game coming out, and you also have Wonder Woman, Wolverine. Do you think that they have the formula down, that we're pretty confident those games are going to be okay? Also, do you think if they stumble that there will be like a big dearth of superhero games again, just like how in the early 2000s there was a bunch of movie properties and then they stopped making them because they all sucked?
I think it's definitely one of those scenarios where you got to hope they pick the right characters and have a good vision for it, right? Because I don't know, I'd be nervous about Wonder Woman's game. I don't know if that's actually going to play out well. It's kind of tough, right? Because it's like this superhero movies. They have that. You've gotten a lot of them, right? Marvel just unleashes all of Pandora's box on it. So are you going to get the same thing with video games? Because right now, the reason most of those movies draw so many people to them is they purposely tie them together. So if you don't go to all the movies, you're going to miss certain things that play into the other movies, right? So will they do that to the games? That's the question mark. Because I don't know if on their own, all of those games will have the same selling point, right?
Honestly, I don't think that could happen, only because games take years, and I know movies take years to make, but I think game development is so much more complicated than movie development. It takes so much longer than movie development to make a good, not just a good game, but a good looking game, a game depending on the size of it, whether it's open world or something like that. And one bad game can really destroy the reputation of one bad maybe comic book game may destroy the reputation of another comic book game coming. I mean, look at a movie like the Assassin's Creed movie and what that did for video game movies coming forward. I mean, you have a few good ones. I've never seen this one, but I heard good things like the Sonic movie. I mean, that's based off a video game, and I heard it was pretty well received from that fandom, and I'm happy for them. But there's a lot of video game movies that consistently come out that are just not that great and really ruin the reputation for video game movies. And I think comic book games is in that kind of that same boat, because you can make so many different TV shows and movies about comic book characters. But like I said earlier, when it comes to games, the process it takes to do that kind of stuff with licensing, what stories you're going to do, the gameplay, is it going to be open world, what the narrative is going to be, that's so much more than just filming and getting some costumes on.
See, okay, I'm gonna say one thing about that though. With the video games to movie, I think that's directly proportional to who makes the movie, because I think too many of those video game developers have jumped way too eagerly to get the movies made. So they'll jump at the first chance for it, thinking that it's going to be great for their series. But like, I don't see. I guess it's where example being, they're doing the Last of Us movie, right? Or is it a TV series? I can't remember which one.
I'm not sure.
I think it's a TV.
Yeah. So it's like, I expect that to be good. I expect that to be good because the people who own that IP are not going to let it be banned, right? It's also, I expect anything that Sony touches to kind of have some quality control because they don't want to ruin that, like what their actual IP is. They're going to own everything from start to finish. So it's a little different than like Assassin's Creed. Ubisoft don't make movies, right?
I can see what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. So it's like and they don't get good, like writers. They've never gotten a good writer. They usually seem to be directors who want to be lazy and just be like, okay, we're gonna take this concept. It's basically the people who go and be like, okay, we're gonna make Mythbusters, but it's all chicks, and we're gonna claim like this is a whole new movie. That's the people that did Assassin's Creed, in my opinion.
I can kind of agree with what you're saying because I'm a huge fan of Halo, and there's a Halo TV show coming out, and I'm not sure how involved that the company that makes Halo, that being 343 Industries, is involved with that show, but they don't make movies and TV shows. They've made like one short TV short, like a few years back when they did Halo Nightfall. It's like a 6-episode short limited series, and they make games, and I'm not gonna lie, those weren't that great. And the Halo TV show, although it looks good from a narrative standpoint, it doesn't look that good. It has me very worried. But I can kind of see what you're saying, like something like The Last of Us. That sounds really interesting. That sounds really good. And I basically what I'm trying to say is I know it depends on who's making it. It's a video game movie, therefore it's gonna suck, or it's a comic book game, therefore it's gonna suck.
So okay, I'll say one. I just went to the recently to the Uncharted movie that came out. And
oh yeah, that's
now there's elements to the movie that you're just gonna be like, oh, what the hell? There's elements in it, right? But the overall movie isn't terrible. It's good. People who are bigger fans of the games might not be super keen to certain elements of the movie, just because they're trying to do it in a timeline, like part of the timeline that is never really covered, not really covered per se by the games. And then there's like one or two things where they try to do a crazy scene where it's where basically it's unbelievable. There's a part where it's just unbelievable, right? Because they're trying to do something that you might experience in a video game, and you're just like, this is unbelievable, but I'm in a video game. And but they're trying to live action that into a movie now, and it's just like, okay, you would have been knocked out. You're not climbing on these things right now. You're knocked out falling. But yeah, it was overall though not a terrible adaptation by Sony, right? It was far better than Assassin's Creed, in my opinion.
Was it better than the Tomb Raider movie?
You know, I never thought Tomb Raider was that bad. Was bad. So
Okay.
I would say it's in a similar vein.
All right. I thought the Tomb Raider movie, the newer-ish one, was okay.
I mean, you have Angelina Jolie. I mean, it's kind of hard.
No, I'm not talking about that one.
Oh,
I'm talking about the Angelina Jolie ones. They're okay as well.
which was the latest one? I don't remember. Maybe I missed that one.
It's loosely based off of the new Tomb Raider games.
Okay.
I can't remember the actress's name. She's in Ex Machina. She's the robot.
Okay. And in the chat right now, Chris did point out that Sony has never produced a bad Spider-Man related anything.
That's true.
They're very protective of Spider-Man.
I mean,
So,
all I
as
have, as I pointed out, Amazing Spider-Man 2 was not great. The direction was terrible, and it caused like Sony to negotiate with Marvel to put them into the Avengers.
They would have negotiated to put them into the Avengers no matter what. Let's be real. The amount of money and the amount of attention that it brings to the future games that they did bring out is something Sony would have to have been blind, deaf, and stupid to have never decided to do.
The money and possibilities and creative rights you have by partnering up with Marvel Entertainment is just, like you're saying, Andrew, it'd be ridiculous for them not to jump on that.
Right.
But I did enjoy Amazing Spider-Man 2. It had a good soundtrack.
I will say I enjoyed it the first time I watched it, but then when I went back and watched it again, I kind of was like, they basically made an Iron Man 2 where they're just trying to build the universe and they just destroyed the story.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, especially with that whole Sinister Six setup and Green Goblin and all that stuff.
Yeah, and the Green Goblin was terrible. That didn't make any sense at all. And also like the Sinister Six in the end, they just show you like every villain's appendages are there. It's like, oh, Oscorp just made all of this, and they're just gonna give it to random people. Okay.
It's
yeah, it wasn't super compelling.
No, it wasn't.
But speaking of go on. Sorry,
I was gonna say we've talked a lot more about DC heroes that would make a good video game. Are there what are you guys' thoughts on another Marvel hero that would make a good video game?
Okay, well, I want another Hulk game. Have you guys ever played Hulk Ultimate?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I will show you.
You could like damage buildings and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. And you can like turn cars into boxing gloves.
Yep.
Oh, it was great.
Oh my gosh. Now that's nostalgic. I had to have been like 5, 6, or something like that when I first played this game.
I bought this game from Blockbuster.
I used my friend's I don't even remember what I played it on. It was so long ago. I was a little kid, but I used my friend's game to play this or watch.
I had
it
on Xbox, but I think it was on GameCube and PS2 as well. But I could be wrong on that. But you can also get really funny shorts, so you can have like American flag shorts and stuff. Anyway, like I realized like that Superman is overpowered and Hulk kind of falls into the same thing, but for whatever reason, it seems like the Hulk game would make more sense and would work better.
It's because
you have Bruce Banner too.
You're not an alien, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, like you're still human, and he becomes OP the second you're like emotionally angry. Like it's still what drives him is still human, right?
True.
So he's more relatable instantly, and then who doesn't want to just destroy it? The morality isn't there to be the perfect person, right? That's why the game would work 1,000 times better than Superman.
True. I think a Daredevil or maybe a Blade game would be really cool.
Ooh, Blade, that would be cool.
Yeah, I was forgetting about Daredevil. That one would be good.
Daredevil would be good.
I think going around, because Blade has so many cool powers and he's hunting vampires. I think that'd be such a cool like concept. You can make almost a horror game out of Blade. And with Daredevil, the powers that he has with his hearing and the reflexes, and he's like Spider-Man in some ways in terms of what he can do, the city he's in. And I think that could create a really cool story. You have so many cool villains too when it comes to Daredevil. You have Elektra, a Bullseye. You have a lot of cool characters involved with Daredevil.
I'm bringing up Deadpool just because I thought this was actually a really well done game.
Very funny.
Yes.
Yeah, Daredevil. That one would be pretty good. I feel like Blade really does rely though on a new iteration of movies, just a little bit to get them back in the frame of mind. Otherwise, you're going to, I think, struggle a little.
For sure.
Yeah, who's playing Blade now? It's Mahershala Ali is the name of the actor.
Mahershala Ali.
I was sort of close. I had an M and I had an Ali. But yeah, no, I really like that actor, so I'm pretty excited to see him bring it to the big screen. It's gonna be different because I don't think he's playing it as a Muslim Blade, right? So the mythos will be different, which I think is an interesting take. I've never actually read the Blade comics, but I've seen Wesley Snipes obviously, and I don't remember it having a big deal. I don't think crosses did anything to the vampires. I can't remember now. Did you guys remember if they did anything?
I don't. It's been forever.
I don't remember.
Been forever. I'm just trying to think of the movies even. I don't think they ever did anything with crosses.
No, I know he throws. He has like little throwing stars, and he has obviously his sword. And then in the the first movie, he fights against like the lowly vampire that turns himself into like the blood god. Then he fights the like transformed vampires that have the split jaws, and then he fights the first vampire in the third movie.
I don't think I saw any of the other Blade. I only saw the first one because I remember being a little kid and my mom didn't want me to watch any rated R movies, and my dad's like, "No, son, I got you. Let's watch Blade."
And then
I was
Yeah,
like, all right, cool.
Definitely watch the second one. It's by far better. It's by far the best of that series.
I don't even remember the first one. I need to rewatch that one.
Okay, yeah, the first one's okay. The ending is a little like meh, but the second movie is really good.
I hope they. I do hope though that they don't try to like tone it down. I really hope. That's my biggest thing. Where it's like I hope they keep it to that same at least the same level that they had in the other movies, and maybe they have to learn from basically the Batman movies and Deadpool that people are still very much willing to watch a rated R superhero movie. Like, is he really a superhero? Technically, I mean,
Blade just says his own stuff.
He's killing vampires. Vampires are bad.
But I mean, it's not. Is it really? Is it really hero driven? Is the question. To a certain extent, because he's kind of just has his own personal vendetta.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it just depends. I guess he's an anti-hero because
he's an anti-hero because he's very self-serving in his goals. Deadpool's an anti-hero, so I mean.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
True.
I feel like an anti-hero has to be a rated R film.
Yeah, that's the problem with Venom. That's why the Venom movies are like the second movie was meh, but the first one was pretty good. But what they needed to show was Venom being Venom and just eating people.
They needed that rated R.
Yeah, that's a freaking video game I forgot to bring up was the Ultimate Spider-Man game where you get to play as Venom. It's so good.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what's so is to bring up that the balloon mission from Spider-Man 2 is at the very beginning when you play as Venom, you eat a kid who has a balloon.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, and then he goes to the football field, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Yeah. Oh man, I love that game.
In the chat, was Chris trying to say Indiana Jones is a superhero?
Yes, Indiana Jones is not a superhero.
Hey, I'm with Chris on that. That guy did some magical stuff with his whips, like inhuman stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Now that we think about it, speaking of whips, the best superhero film is obviously Catwoman with Halle Berry. They should make that into a whole video game series and also a movie series.
Oh God, is that the one with the really tight like black leather? Am I thinking
they
the right
all
person?
have super tight.
She's always super tight leather. Though.
Yeah, but no, that one she like gets possessed by a cat god or something, and she like her name's not Selena Kyle, it's something else. And
it was a very weird.
She has like a sexy basketball game. It's like, what is this?
Okay, DC.
Such trash. Oh, and Halle Berry is such a good actress too. So it's like, why did she ever sign up for that?
Also, DC does like to go much darker than Marvel, so it's a darker universe. True. But I feel like I feel like they've really leaned into it a little bit too, just to kind of distinguish themselves from Marvel.
Yeah, I think
Marvel goes a bit jokesy.
Yeah. Pink Pearl. I don't even know what that is, Chris. All right, I will look up Pink Pearl.
Wasn't there a superhero made called Snowflake recently? I heard that.
Oh yeah, there was a. Yeah. Oh no!
Please, I want the newest ones. I forget what the new ones are. They had a whole new group of superheroes that they created that were kind of ridiculous.
Oh,
like FJW heroes and stuff.
Are you talking about the Marvel heroes that are?
Yeah.
So it's
and it made everyone so mad.
I was only half paying attention, so I hope I don't pick the wrong ones. But it's like Snowflake and
There was one that was like meant to go for like LGBT, and everyone was like, "That is not like that is offensive."
well, it was just a super stereotype, and it's like, are you stone deaf? Like one of them Snowflake. I'll look them up now.
They deserve a movie. I'm just saying.
I would pay to watch that movie.
or a movie about their like how they created them, just like a
They got to
comedy.
team up with Condom.
Someone needs to make like a comedy about the creation of these superheroes and just be like, just take them to task over how like dumb they were.
Oh no, the story itself is going to be so much better than the
All right,
characters.
so it's Snowflake and Safe Space.
Safe space. Safe space.
Yes,
Just go
they
up
need
to
a
the Joker and
movie.
be like, "No, don't invade my safe space. Joker can't do anything to you."
You can't see the pictures. Hold on.
They need a movie.
No, what is happening right now? Why didn't
Go and say no.
That's the third one.
Snowflake?
Safe browser histories. The third hero.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you
Yes,
go.
right there. They need a movie.
Snowflake and safe space.
I don't know what they were thinking here. Yeah,
That's like
all right.
the Cloak and Dagger. That's what I'm
Okay.
getting from these guys.
Okay. I'm just pitching it. Comedy movie, a movie that's a pure comedy about the people who created these two.
Kind of like
That would be the best.
kind of like what the Tommy Wiseau stuff, dude, documentary and how that was made.
Yeah.
Yes. And Chris sent a text about Howard the Duck as being I'm pretty certain he's like one of the most ridiculous comic book characters.
Howard the Duck could be their Nick Fury.
Yes. Oh man. All right. Well, we are coming up a little bit past an hour, so if you guys want to have any final comments on superhero films and superhero video games, do you think we're in a good place now? Do you think it's going to get better? Do you think it's going to get worse? What do you think?
I think they're going to go with it. They're going to just saturate it. Well, the part that I forgot to mention earlier is as long as they're not like copying and pasting much of the mechanics or like style of the game, right? If they have to be standalone, distinguishable products. Otherwise, it's going to just get stupid.
Yeah, I think that we're in a place where they're going to get better. I'm kind of concerned about Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad because, like you were saying about it getting super saturated, those games are very different in terms of tone and story. But both games require four different characters to play as, and it's a very similar type of play style. It's just a beat 'em up game like Batman Arkham Knight. And I think that although I'm excited for both games for the story, it's literally going to be the same game, mechanically. And I really hope games don't get in the trope to where video games where they can only be beat 'em up games. You can't do anything beyond that. Look at what Telltale did. That was something really interesting and unique. I'm really with Andrew on that. I just don't want it to be saturated in the same thing with a different skin. That is what's concerning me.
See, for that though, with the different characters, they're gonna have to pour everything into the story, right? The narrative, how it makes you feel to play as each of them, so that you want to play slightly different. I think that's what they're gonna have to focus on because of how similar they all are.
Yep. Yeah, at the end of the day, most superheroes are punching the bad guy, or like some kind of variation of them hitting it. So most games would translate most easily to just being a beat 'em up. So yeah, it's going to be a trap that they're probably going to fall into. Also, if it's a newer, even if there's a game of a character that has been made before but hasn't been for a while, so it's like Wonder Woman. I highly doubt they're going to be super exploratory in those games. They're going to do the safe, like maybe an action adventure game, just like Batman. They're not going to go with like a more story-driven, like Telltale game, or one where like a completely different setting, and they're not going to be super. They're not going to challenge the narrative, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. They will try to play as safe as possible, I think, for the first time for a new character.
Sure.
I just don't think I'm convinced by Wonder Woman as a game.
Still OP.
But what are you gonna do the whole game? Just lasso of truth, everybody? Like.
Yes. No, you're just gonna jump in the invisible jet.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, right. That one. I'm not convinced by Wonder Woman as a video game that it's gonna be likable.
We'll have to wait and see for the trailer.
Is there any clues yet as to what style they're going with?
No, I think the only thing they've shown is like her walking out of the shadow. That's it.
Okay, so it's not going. They haven't said if it will be linear or if it's going to be more open world.
I don't
Yeah,
think
no.
so. Yeah, no. Yeah.
The only way I could see it being good is if they just did it linear. I don't think open world works for Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Just given her OPness. It'd be like open world with Superman. You did the God code cheat and then you're just having fun. for
Exactly,
30
yeah.
minutes and then you're done. And you paid $60 for the pleasure of 30 minutes of just.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have any final thoughts on this? Or are we good? You think
I
we
think
beat
I
this
pretty
to
much
death?
said everything that needed to be said in terms of Batman and video games and whatnot, and the movie.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
won't be
spoilers.
happy. I won't be happy until Snowflake and Safe Space have a video game.
Yes.
Let's
And
go.
the
We got to
movie.
get a petition.
Yes. I would probably go see this. I would pay to see that movie just to see how terrible it is.
I just love how they're dressed like a tag team wrestling team.
Well, it's like they had this
Like,
big announcement, like this was going to be
Snowflake's
some
getting her
great
ass
thing, and
kicked.
like no one likes these characters. It's like, what were you thinking?
I just see it. Snowflake gets her ass kicked in the first round, has to tag in Safe Space.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh god.
Yeah. Oh man. Anyway, as always, I'm Will.
And I'm Andrew.
Zenghilios supporting Snowflake and Safe Space.
That's like their like combined character.
Yes,
when they
no
form
space.
together. No space. All right, thanks guys. Thanks
Safe
for
Flake.
tuning
Thank
in.
you.
And we'll see you on the next
Yeah,
one.
see you.
Bye guys.
See you later.